Welcome back, everybody, and on this edition of Knicks Verse, we will be talking about the New York Knicks versus the San Antonio Spurs. And if you notice that we've played 102 total games against them, 97 regular season games, where they have the record on us, 56-41. And of course, we played them in 5 playoff games in the 1999 NBA Finals. 4-1 San Antonio Spurs beat us. The Knicks, I think, were the only 8th seed to ever make it to the NBA Finals. So at least a little bit of Knicks history in this. But for the most part, the Knicks and the Spurs almost never have to worry about each other, except for the one time that they did. And maybe in the future, they might. Let's take a look at overall in the last few seasons. And we split the series last season. At that point, Spurs were also nursing a 4-game win streak against us. And we typically play them 2 times a year. I don't see one time we played them in the 2011-2012 season. That was a shortened season. But for the most part, it's been twice a year. How far back does this go? Oh, 4 times. So we stopped in the 80-81 season. We stopped. But wow. At some point, we played them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And then 4 times, 4 times, 4 times. So it's 1976, 1977. On the March 2nd game, we lost 93-119. And on the May 13th game, we beat them 102-98. I remember May 13th, that's a bit later into the season. And March 2nd is also after the All-Star break. So we saw them in a shortened season. And now what I want to do is take a look at the San Antonio Spurs and get an idea for who they are. First, of course, we will look at their stats. If you see, I think it's pronounced Dejaunte Murray. So Murray's averaging 19.1. He's their rebound guy. He's their assist guy. He's their steals guy. You do have their point guard is getting 1 block a game, which is pretty interesting. Very similar to how the Knicks are right now. They do have their one main star, and then they have their secondary star. Kendall Johnson has been playing pretty decent. He's getting 6 rebounds. 2 assists. They have multiple players in double figures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in double figures. And then it's kind of a big drop off. Popovich is playing a good portion of his guys, but then he also takes a bit of the load off of them. So the 30 minutes a game, Greg Popovich team, now he's starting to go a little up more. 34 minutes, 31 minutes, 31 minutes. So I find that pretty interesting. If you look at their rebounds, feel free to pause it whenever you guys want. 8 rebounds for Dejounte Murray, 6 rebounds, 9 rebounds from Jacob, who's a center, and 2 assists too. Their centers are their big guys are also getting assists too. So it's going to be a little tough, this team. They got Doug McDermott. Doug McDermott, I think, was a Knick at one point. They've got Thaddeus Young, who's been in the league for a bit. Let's take a look at their injuries. So far, Devin Vassell is day-to-day. They got a game coming up against against the Suns and against the Knicks. Zach Collins, I think Zach Collins was on the Trailblazers, will not make his season debut before Christmas. Interesting. So we may see him in the second game. Let's see what they're running with their depth. Dejounte Murray, Derek White, Doug McDermott, Kendall Johnson, and Jacob Poeltl. Trey Jones, Bryn Forbes, who just won a championship. Lonnie Walker, Devin Vassell, he's day-to-day. And then Thad Young is filling in. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I want to take a look at their schedule, because they didn't start off well. They started off really cold and have just now been picking up. And really, just before Christmas, just before Thanksgiving is when they really started. Because now they're on a 4-game win streak. And if you notice, they're winning. It was against Orlando, Milwaukee they beat, Orlando again, Sacramento, and then they lost to somewhat of the heavy hitters, minus Minnesota. And then they've been beating Boston, which is kind of upsetting to see how inconsistent they have been. Washington, Portland, and Golden State. Those are 3 really good teams. Boston, don't bat your eyelash at Boston. And they've kind of started to come back. It looks from here, Dejounte Murray's been the guy who scores the most overall. It varies a little bit, which I think is pretty good. Rebounding perspective, their point guard can rebound, which is fantastic. And their point guard is the main assist guy, which is really good. Take a look at the Knicks really quick and see how they compare. Stats-wise, it's a little interesting for the Knicks. RJ Barrett is 14 points a game, but it's a little tough, and some of those good games, those 30-point games, those big 20-point games, they're a little few and far between for me, which kind of concerns me. Evan Fournier, streaky, very streaky. I mean, we're happy we get what we get from D Rose. But overall, Randall seems to be kind of coming back to form. If you look at our assists, you get 3, even though Kemba's not even playing at this point. He's completely out of the rotation. You get from Derrick Rose, who is a bench player, and then it's Randall. Sometimes RJ, IQ when he comes in, but he's a bench player. Burks right now is starting, and I think Burks is really good with ball movement. So he's a great second man or third man to get the ball to. But for the most part, Alec Burks doesn't seem to be a high assist guy, at least not yet. If he chooses to change up his game or switch up his game, which I think is what will help us to try to defeat the Spurs, is you have to kind of switch up the game on a maybe even a half by half basis, but even a quarter by quarter basis with that team. But we do have Noel, we do have Gibson, depending on their status. Mitch helps a lot. So we're not getting much from the points perspective. Fournier could go off. Randall could go off. Will probably go off. Will most likely go off. RJ might go off. But sometimes RJ is sitting in the fourth. And Evan Fournier has kind of just now started to get back into the swing of things into the fourth. Those things are kind of concerning. Any injuries for the Knicks that we need to know about? Jericho Sims is day-to-day, and that was on December 5th, which is today. Day-to-day, maybe he'll get to see the Spurs of a glance at the Knicks. 3-game skid after beating Atlanta. And before that, we were winning, losing, winning, losing, winning, losing. It really is a 50-50 type of team. Slightly under 500 to slightly over 500 for now. Although I do think that eventually this Knicks team will click at some point. Maybe January, maybe February towards the All-Star break. You might see a little bit of movement and flow and better understanding for each other. I don't think that they fully grasped connecting with each other yet. Randall is now kind of just starting to get back. So we'll see. But I think this team is probably going to have to go back through Randall. And this team is probably going to have to go back through Randall in the paint, doing his best to get those Kobe fadeaways. As you see San Antonio Spurs on the 7th, it'll be a 3-game away stretch. At San Antonio, at Indiana, and at Toronto. I want to see what days those are. December 7th and January 10th. So let's see where the Knicks will be December 7th and January 10th. As you see, we lost to the Nets, Bulls, Nuggets. This is our murderer's row stretch of games. So these games are going to be tough to win. But doesn't mean we can't win. We'll be at San Antonio, at Indiana, and at Toronto. We do get a little break. We have to fly to San Antonio. The next day go up to Indiana. A little bit, not too bad. And then you have to go across the border to Toronto. And then come back home for Milwaukee and then Golden State. And then it's kind of over that tough schedule just in general. For now, it gets a little crazier towards the end. Let's see what San Antonio has December 7th. They're home. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games home in January 10th. And they're away. And they'll do an East run. They're going to run through the East, the Spurs. Go back to the Knicks really quick. Check out January 10th. It'll be up and down for us too, because we see Boston twice. We do see Texas teams, but we'll be home for those. Because if you look at San Antonio in December, I think that Suns game, if they lose that game and they lose that streak, they're going to really want Knicks as their palate cleanser. Because what if the Spurs lose to Phoenix, Denver 2 times? They're going to want to take at least New York, New Orleans, Charlotte, Sacramento in December. Come January for them, they got to see Toronto. They got to see Boston, Philly. And these are back-to-backs. Philly on the 7th, Nets on the 9th, and then a back-to-back. So, I'll tell you, I think we could possibly beat the Spurs. We beat them both games. 2-0 in the series against them. I think that's possible. Although if I had to guess, if there's a game to lose, both, I think. I think the Spurs have the opportunity, the way they run, the way they play their offense and their defense. The thing about the Spurs is they play their assignment, which is the gift and the curse. You play to your play, you play to your assignment, and there is a sense of fluidity there. But I think Steve Kerr has more fluidity than I think Greg Popovich would, which isn't a knock, just an observation, I guess. The team, the San Antonio Spurs, that is, plays to their plays and they execute them fairly well, which is why I'm not surprised. That's why I'm not surprised they're on a win streak. They seem to run pretty well, and they do get the best out of their team. Probably a high IQ team. It's just that they really only have one all-star, one star player for their team. That's Dejounte Murray, who kind of does everything for them. Once you kind of take him out, which is what I think Tibbs might do, target him, let everyone else try to beat us. And who knows, we could shut Dejounte down. Just like in a way, even though Trae Young wasn't shut down, but we managed to get him so that late in the quarter he took emotional shots as opposed to, I guess, like basketball type shots, if that makes any sense. We were able to make him get a play that he would hope for a shot to go in, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to set up and I know this shot's going in. I've got little coverage and I've got spacing. Instead, we got him and we got it in his head. Levine is also that type of player too. Wear their heart on their sleeves type of players. So the Knicks seem to narrow down on those type of players, but it doesn't mean that they can stop those type of players. It just means that they're paired for those type of players. And I think if you can isolate Dejounte and get the Spurs to get in to their mindset that the plays are what's going to get us out, maybe that might help. The thing is, the San Antonio Spurs, they really pass the ball, and their movement is really nice, which is something that the Knicks don't have, because the Knicks give up on certain plays and have to restart, and sometimes that happens with like 14 seconds left on the clock. Whereas the Spurs, it's almost like a trust factor. They trust each other more, if that makes any sense. Although you can argue they were losing, so is the trust really there? But sometimes, the team makeup is the team makeup, which is also a bit of a downfall for them. That this San Antonio Spurs team can be okay. They can make a little bit of noise, but are you expecting them to get into the play-in with an 8-13 record? If we check their standings right now, 8-13, they've got Dallas, who's average, and Memphis, who's just a little above average. And if we go to their full standings, right now they're listed they're just out of the play-in. Not bad. How are they at home versus away? 4-6 home and 4-7. How about for the Knicks? Where are they home versus away? Home is not good, I'll tell you that much. Oh wow, we're out of the play-in right now. 5-8 at home and 6-4 away. Let me see. When do we play? December 7th? At San Antonio? Boo, who knows? We could probably win the first one, lose the second one. I think my prediction overall is we win the first one, because I think San Antonio will get stopped by Phoenix. We'll kind of make it so that they don't pick up the pieces. And they might go on a little bit of a skid again until they get to New Orleans and Charlotte. Up and down, maybe a little bit. And I'm hoping for the Knicks, by the time we see San Antonio in January, that we can maybe come to some semblance. Maybe we can rattle off 2-3 wins in a row. So that's what I think. 1-1 with us winning the December game and them winning the January game. Let me know what you guys think. I think it might be a good game. I do think that San Antonio will probably get the Knicks frustrated with how well they could potentially play and how well they move the ball. And I don't think that the Knicks move the ball well right now. So we'll see. All right, guys. Later.